The fifth thing that this podcast has taught me is that you can start off knowing less than nothing about something, and you can then learn and learn and learn. I started this podcast in a dark place. I knew the word hoarding, I knew a little bit about it. I'd read a couple of books, but like 10 years earlier. But what I didn't know was how to get myself out of the hole I was in. And there was something about initially just talking into my phone. And as I've said, the first few episodes were predominantly despair. And then having to come up with a new subject each week, a new topic each week, a new interview each week, made me start having to learn more. And if I learned something for the podcast, because the podcast is something that is so personal to me, to my situation, I also learnt it for myself. So if I was learning about a technique that might help you, it might also help me. And often it did. Often it still does. Not always, just like not every tip you hear will help you, but some of them will. I've read more academic papers on hoarding than I ever read about the subject of my degree. Apologies to my former lecturers on that. I've learned not only all of the things I've learned, I've also learnt to spot areas where more needs to be learnt. I've learnt to have conversations with academics. I've learnt to get the best from interviewees. I've learnt to reach out to people. I've learnt the language to talk about hoarding. That was something I was really missing in the early days. I would know there was an issue I faced, but I didn't know how to describe it. I didn't know what it was called. I just knew I found it hard. And all of that has come from talking about it with you and from week after week after week since 2021, needing to make something for you and for me so that on a Friday you know that there will be something from me. And even the bits that I've learned that aren't relevant to me, like when I talked about animal hoarding, like when I've talked about children of hoarders, or parenting when you hoard, or having a partner who hoards. Even when I've talked about those topics that don't apply to me, I feel like I've gained compassion, I've gained knowledge, I've gained insight. And even when it's a topic that doesn't directly apply to me, there are still often bits I can glean that do feel relevant. And all of that helps me to formulate a new strategy I can try, a new idea that might apply, a new way of understanding myself.